All right, man, peace. You know, I've had brothers try to hit me up in the comment section asking me if I'm willing to reconsider the notion that I've put forth numerous times that LeBron James is still the best player in the NBA and not Kevin Durant. I've stated that even though Kevin Durant is a better all-around player at this point in his career than LeBron James, the reason why I have a hard time declaring him number one is because he's never proven that he can be a leader. And I'm racking my brain to figure out at what point in the history of the NBA was the best player in the league ever been a player who was not the best player on his own team in regards to who his teammates look to for inspiration. I mean, honestly, when we go through the history of the NBA, even before the modern era, when we consider who the best players were, whether it was Bob Cousy or Bob Pettit, Elgin Baylor, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Dr. J, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Dr. J, Moses Malone, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, Shaquille O'Neal. There was a little moment in time where Karl Malone and Shaq were kind of battling for who would be considered the best player after Jordan retired for the second time. Then in the early 2000s, you had Tim Duncan. Then there was that stretch in the mid to late 2000s where you had Kobe Bryant and LeBron James and Tim Duncan and even Dirk for a hot second, all battling for who will be considered the best player in the NBA in the late 2000s. The early 2010s, you had LeBron. The mid to late 2010s, of course, you had the rise of KD and Steph and so on and so forth. And I have a hard time figuring out if at any time, without a doubt, the best player in the NBA was a player who at no time was ever the irrefutable alpha on his team. Because Kevin Durant himself has stated that the reason why he left OKC is because they would not hand him the proverbial keys for the team. They gave it to Westbrook. And now he's on Golden State. And we all know that this is Steph's team. Kevin Durant is the overall more talented player. But is he as impactful as Steph Curry? The answer is no. So that's why I have trepidation in giving that title over to KD. Even though, in my view, he just does more things at this point than LeBron James, particularly on the defensive end. Well, Scottie Pippen has no such trepidation or reservation. He's going to come out and let you know that he believes that Kevin Durant is the best player in the NBA and has been so for a while now. So they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
About the Warriors side, too, because, yes, indeed, 51 points out of KD last night over the last 3 games. Look at what he's averaging. He's averaging 48 points a night. Averaging, Scottie. What do you see when you see what has gotten into him besides
What I see is a brother that's in the zone right now. And there are certain scorers in the history of the NBA that when they get in their zone, you just get out the damn way. That is it. Since I've been watching basketball, there's been Jordan, there's been Kobe, there's been KD. Those are the 3 most elite level scorers that I've seen since I've been watching basketball, that when they get in their zone, you get out the way. Now, of those 3 players, Kobe Bryant probably got the hottest of any of those 3 players. The most consistent was Michael Jordan in regards to his proficiency. But the player who probably could do the most on the offensive end because of his stature is KD.
I see the guy that I said here a few weeks ago. He is one of the most unstoppable guys in the NBA, and right now he has not been pushed to that level. Now, with Steph out, with Draymond Green out, you're seeing the real KD. The KD that I felt like has been holding back for the last couple of years. We watched him play with Russell Westbrook.
Well, Scottie, let's be for real. And to a degree, I agree with you. But a little bit of KD, quote-unquote, holding himself back was him being held back by Russell Westbrook. Now he's with the Golden State Warriors. He plays in a real system, so he just can't go ham unless he's asked to. That's why I've called KD one of the great weapons in the history of the NBA. He truly is. He's like a nuclear bomb.
Win an MVP year there with Westbrook, and still, I don't think we saw the full KD. And I think that we're getting a chance to see KD really carry a team. He's never had the opportunity to step in and be the leader, be the man. The ball come through him. Now we're starting to see that, and I think scoring is just very easy for this guy.
Rachel, are we seeing the 2019-20 Knicks?
Don't you producer Steve hope like that?
I would love to see KD and Kyrie Irving come to the Knicks just so that I could be entertained on a nightly basis. But I don't think that that's going to happen, but we'll see.
This is what a Kevin Durant team would kind of look like, and the thing about it is, Kevin loves this. He loves to have games like this. Like, we've maybe never seen a 3-game run like this of this high stats. We've seen 3-game runs like this from him before.
Well, he's never done this before, by the way. Even with all, Scottie's right. So that's what I think that's fascinating when you're saying, because I think a lot of people think, oh, he's reverting back to OKC form. When he does this, he's not, because you're right. He had Russell before.
And I'm gonna say this: KD needs the opportunity to lead a team.
I agree with you, Scottie Pippen. It seems as though he's building up to that level of maturity where he's now starting to believe that he's ready to do that. That's one of the main reasons why I believe that he's going to leave Golden State, and he's so focused on making sure that he maximizes this season and has it culminate in a championship. Because he's not going to allow Draymond Green, or at least hopefully he's not going to allow Draymond Green to detract from his life experience as a member of the Golden State Warriors. All of our life experiences, they're all about how much we take them to the limit, at least within reason, within propriety. That's why even Solomon states that everything that we put our hands to do, we do them with all of our might.
But does he want to do that at the end of the season? Because when it's ring giving out time, I think he likes being on a team with other all-stars. I think it's one of those things that he's going to have to balance this offseason.
I agree.
Is it worth subjugating my game for another 3 or 4 years, or do I want my own team again? But I might be home in June. I mean, this is a classic situation.
I think if you ask that to a lot of players, they would say no. But you're talking about a guy who already has 2 NBA championships.
And heading to a third. And once again, Scottie Pippen's making great points. Once KD is able to have this season end how it's supposed to with the championship, I think that he may be willing to go through 2 or 3 years of building on another team that is his, knowing that he already has 3 championships in the bank.
He already has 2 NBA finals.
Yeah.
So what else is left for him is to go lead his own team and do it, to be pushed, to be the player that he probably has dreamt that he will always be. He could probably be a player that could score 40 points a game.
You're one of the few people
league.
in NBA history who had been in the same situation. If he came to you and said, Scottie, what should I do? Should I stay here and get some more rings, or should I go off and try to do it myself? What would you tell him?
I would tell him to go off and do it on his own.
In other words, Scottie Pippen is saying that if I had the opportunity that KD had, I would have left Jordan in my late 20s or 30 years old and tried to build my own legacy. Once again, please keep in mind that when Scottie Pippen played, and for brothers that are in my age range, it seems like yesterday that Scottie was playing and dominating the league on both ends in the early to mid 90s. But once again, the NBA did not have fully unrestricted free agency until the 88-89 season. Now, there was a major offseason in the NBA right before the 96-97 season. But at that point, I believe that Scottie Pippen was still in the midst of a very prohibitive contract that he had signed with the Chicago Bulls in the early 90s. So he never really got to understand what it felt like to be courted and coveted by a bevy of teams. And that's why I try to tell a lot of brothers, the halcyonic, super competitive NBA of the 80s and 90s that we think of as a form of feudalism, where every samurai had his own territory that he protected, Jordan in Chicago and Isaiah in Detroit, Dominique in Atlanta, Hakeem in Houston, and Barkley in Philly, and Magic in LA. A lot of that is contrived. A lot of those memories are false implants, and they're constructs based off of the lack of flexibility and freedom that those players back then had. Believe me, if they had options, they would have teamed up with one another. They would have moved around more. And Scottie Pippen is acknowledging that via the proxy of Kevin Durant by answering Brian Windhorst's question of what advice would Scottie give Kevin Durant. For Scottie to say, I tell you to leave, that's him saying, if I had the chance, I would have left.
And that's
because I think he is capable of leading a team on his own. I think he's capable of winning a championship by himself with another player. But
also keep in mind that many of these former NBA greats, they did not like that Kevin Durant signed with the Golden State Warriors because they felt like all he did was make a great team unbeatable. It goes against a lot of what they've been programmed in their DNA. So even though there's an element of jealousy that they have because they wish that they had the options that Kevin Durant has. They also kind of sort of want him to conform to a lot of the old school morals and build on your own and succeed on your own. And you'll get the gratification that they received by climbing that mountain. And that is also why Kevin Durant admitted that after he won those first 2 championships, there was no sense of accomplishment, at least not the sense that he thought that he was going to feel. And he's not going to feel that until he leaves and hopefully for him wins a championship on his own as the leader of his own franchise. So we'll see what happens. As of right now, he's LeBron James circa 2013. He has to finish it off in a way that LeBron James was unable to in 2014. So now if he leaves Golden State with 3 chips, goes somewhere else and wins another one, not only will that verify him as an alpha, but that will also validate the first 3 that he won with Golden State. Because when people assess LeBron James, they say he's a 3-time champion. Nobody says, oh, well, you know, he had to go to Miami to win 2 championships and he won a 3rd one in Cleveland. The 3rd championship in Cleveland gave credibility to the first 2 in Miami. And the same thing will happen to KD if he goes to another franchise and wins a 4th championship, assuming that he's able to win a 3rd one this year.
But KD is the best player in the league right now.
Sorry.
Now look at what Scottie Pippen did there. He said KD is the best player in the league right now, and he made a hand gesture as if to say bar none, like it's not even close. And he looked dead in Brian Windhorst's face. Why did he do that? Because he knows that Brian Windhorst is LeBron's boy. Let me rewind this back.
Sorry to say. Player, but KD is the best player in the league right now.
So you think he's already there?
Now, did you see what Scottie did there? He said KD is the best player in the league right now. Sorry to say that. Because he knows, once again, that Brian Windhorst is LeBron James' #1 fan. He tries to act like he's so critical of LeBron, and he does bring out real information. It's like the relationship between LeBron James and Brian Windhorst is almost like an ex-girlfriend that still likes you, but she's still mad that you left. So she don't know if she want to talk great about you or talk a bunch of shit about you.
I truly think that he's there. I think he's been there for a few years, but I think he's been kind of sheltered because he came into a situation where he didn't want to step on anyone's toes or anything.
Well, that means that he wanted to be sheltered. If he willingly came into a situation where he knew that he was going to feel uncomfortable stepping on people's toes, it's because he wanted to be sheltered. He wanted to be prepped. He wanted to understand what it meant to play winning basketball. That's what that means. And he never learned that in OKC because they never played winning basketball. They relied on their talent.
Or anything like that. So he's in a situation where now he can either push forward or he can continue to kind of hold back. And we're seeing the KD that push forward.
You know, I think what was interesting was after the game last night, Draymond didn't play. And he came out and got on the record about just how great KD was. Now, it's not unheard of for a guy who doesn't play to give an interview, but it's certainly rare.
A little bit of,
just to make sure.
We're good now. Did you know we're good? Hey, look, we're good, we're good.
You remember, but maybe we should recruit.
In other words, Draymond is saying, look, this dude is balling out. I'm not around. I better make sure that people understand that I'm fully in KD's corner because I don't want to receive the blame. See, Draymond, once again, he's like an angry baby mama. He just spazzes out and then he regrets it in the aftermath. He won't admit that he regrets it, but he does. Because at the end of the day, him being drafted by the Warriors and playing in the Steve Kerr system is the best thing that ever happened to him. If Draymond was on another team, who knows? He might not even be starting. Keep in mind, he came off the bench for 2 seasons for Mark Jackson. It was Steve Kerr who saw enough in him to put him in the starting lineup. And since then, he's been nothing but a spoiled brat, a talented spoiled brat who brings great contributions to the team. But Steve Kerr is like the basketball version of Pete Carroll. He's given a lot of these super liberal, woke mama's boys a little bit too much leeway. And what has happened to Steve Kerr is what happens to all these super liberal Caucasian coaches who do that to these woke athletes. You know, they end up getting their hands bit by the same person who they fed. And we've seen how much better the Seattle Seahawks are starting to play now that they've moved past the jettisoning of most of their woke players like Richard Sherman and Michael Bennett, etc. They finally moved past that era and they've centered their entire style around their quarterback, improved offensive line play, and other components on their team who just want to perform on the field and are not so concerned about gestures and making sure that everybody on Twitter knows how woke they are. Draymond Green is moving towards that territory. I'm on record as stating that I would consider trading KD before Draymond because I think that the likelihood of KD leaving is so much higher than Draymond. I mean, there's so much going on with that whole Golden State situation right now that it's kind of clear to me that Draymond knows a lot that he's not going to talk about. I believe that Draymond may have even heard that Kevin Durant does not really like him, and that's why he's considering leaving. That might be another reason, in my view, why he exploded on KD, because maybe he's heard things through the grapevine in regards to how KD really feels about him. But once again, there's a lot going on with that situation, and we'll see how everything shakes out.
Keep this guy. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, Scottie, I like what you're saying, too, because I kept thinking about KD maybe going to the Knicks, Brian, producer Steve, or somewhere else where he might leave Golden State as being, oh, he wants his own team, that kind of thing, to get away from all the Twitter, all the sort of backlash about him joining the Warriors. Your point about him being able to fully flower as a basketball player, I hadn't considered that as much because he's so good now. But he's never had 3 games in a row where he scored over 40. This was the first time.
No, because
once again, and I've said this in the past, KD is one of the most consistent, great, proficient scorers in the history of the NBA. But when you talk about explosiveness, that's Kobe. That's why I say that Kobe Bryant gets the hottest of any player that I've ever seen. Because Kobe's not even a good three-point shooter, at least not by modern standards. But because he took them so unabashedly, he was able to convince his fans that he's a good three-point shooter. So many of his fans to this day believe that his three-point shooting percentage is like 10 percentage points higher than Michael Jordan. And they shot the same three-point percentage. They shot just about the exact same three-point percentage. The only difference is that Kobe Bryant took like 5,000 more three-point shots. Okay? But when it comes to overall consistency and proficiency, we're talking about Jordan and KD. Because they're not going to score 80 points in a game. They're not going to make 12 three-point shots. But they're going to give you that consistent 30 a game on 50% from the field.
He's always been sort of the second guy. Even when he played in Oklahoma City, he was behind Westbrook. Westbrook may miss a few games here and there, and you get some flashes. Like he's getting flashes now because Steph is out. When Steph...
Remember, the season that KD won the MVP, it was because Russell Westbrook was out.
Come back, yeah, he's going to have to pull back a little bit. But does KD really want to be that guy that's pulling back? Or do he want to be that guy that's coming out every night and you got to deal with him? You got to deal with a guy now.
Steve Kerr going to send Scottie Pippen a message. He going to be like, F you.
Can give you 60 points a night. And
right now you're gassing up our guy to leave, Scottie.
And with his length and his size and his versatility, he's unstoppable on the offensive end.
Man, someone, as Brian points out, someone who would know.
Absolutely agree. And Sky did a great job in this segment. So we'll see how things shake out for Mr. Kevin Durant. Peace.